Okay, so we are up to the bottom of the Nun base, I believe, and we learned the halacha of kol dover she'ena bezeh chazeh af b'vas achas eina. So we had a case of isha alachoisa l'sikach litzvar. You're not allowed to marry two sisters. So if you marry one sister and then you want to marry the other sister, Kiddushin will not be toivus. But what if you marry two sisters simultaneously? Will that work? So we learned from Rabbah that there's a svara that kol she'enoi bezeh chazeh afilu b'vas achas eina. So it's the second to the bottom line on the page of Nulam Beis. Gufa, Amar Rabbah, Kol she'ena b'zeh chazeh, anything that cannot be chal one not to the other, afilu b'vas achas eina. So since you cannot marry the second sister after you marry the first sister, even if you try marrying both sisters simultaneously, it doesn't work. But it's important to note that when we say it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that both Kiddushin aren't chal together. It means neither one can be chal at all. So you don't say the first one will be chal, you pick one. One will be chal, one won't be chal. No, neither will be chal. If you were doing it pesach, the first one was chal, the second one wasn't. If you try doing them together, neither one will be chal. Eis ve'Abaye. Abaye challenges Rabbah. The Rashi says as follows: Hamarba b'maiser. Normally, when you separate maiser, you have to separate 1/10 of the teva. Instead, you separated 1/5. Unlike Truma, where you can give by in Yafa, you can give more, Meiser is prescriptive. It's exactly 1/10, no more, no less. So if you tried giving more, it doesn't really work. So part of what you separated isn't really going to be Meiser. So the halach is Peirosav Mesukanim. The remaining 80% of the Peiros are definitely Mesukan because you definitely separated the minimum of 10%. But the 20% that you've separated, not all of it is Meiser, and whatever is not Meiser is not Tevel, is not Chulin, it's Tevel, because you separated on the remaining 80%, but the 20% that you separated is either Meiser or Tevel. So now you're left with a mixture of Meiser and Tevel mixed together, which cannot be used, because one may not eat Tevel. So Meiser of Mikol Kolin, and this Meiser is now messed up. As Rashi says, the Tevel U'Maisu Muravin Zebozeh. Let's see Rashi. The Tevel U'Maisu Muravin Zebozeh. Hakri Kuloi Tevel Hava. When they started off, this whole pile was Tevel. Ucheshemana Arba L'Chulin, and now he's counting out 4/5 L'Chulin. When he took the fifth measure, he should have only taken half of it to represent 1/10 of the tevel. But instead, he separated 20% in one bundle. Just because you wanted to give 20% to Meiser, 20% does not go to Meiser. Only 10% went to Meiser. So half of what you separated, tevel, and therefore, this tevel may not be eaten by anyone. Vim Isa, Zok to Gemara, if you hold like Rabbah, the chol she'enoi, b'zachar enoi b'vasachas, klal, so then my perosh of Mesukanim, it should not have been chal. Since you cannot be mafresh, first 10%, and then another 10%, because the second 10% will be nothing. Well, then the first 10% shouldn't have been chal either. So the entire 20% should remain tevel. So therefore, and I'm trying not the 20%, the entire 100% should be tevel, because we should look at it like you weren't mafresh meiser at all. Why do we say that even 10% of the tvua is meiser? If you would have been mafresh 10% and then another 10%, Meiser wouldn't have been chal on the second bunch of 10%. So, therefore, neither hafrosha should be chal. So, Zok the Gemara inside of my name a kol sheina b'zeh afilu b'vasachas einoi. Amar lei Rabbi answer, that's not a kasha. Shiny Meiser the isel chatzayin. Meiser is different than any other type of afrasha, or different than a rayas at least, is because you could be mafish ma'aser l'chatzoin. What does that mean? What if he took this 20%, which was of course a lot more than necessary for ma'aser, it's double. But what if he said the Amr Tischadish Paga de Chitza? What if he said, I don't want all of this 20% to be Meiser. I want half of each wheat kernel in this pile to be Meiser. Kacha, Avada, it would work. That worked by Meiser. But you cannot say, I want half of each of these women to be Mekudeshes. You can't do that. So when do you say, that's when you can't possibly have half of the chalais on one, half on the other. You can't have one woman who's half married, the other one who's half married. But by Ma'aser, you can have every kernel to be half Truma, half Ma'aser, half Kodesh. As Rashi says, the moment is Kaddish Palga Palga, the Chitzukacha, Hilchach, Kishehifris Bevasachas, Yosy Mekashir, when in one fell swoop you try to be mafresh 20% for Ma'aser, yes, let the Ma'aser lochel, I'll call Chito v'Chito v'Chito. So that means half of each wheat kernel will become Meiser, and the other half will remain Teva. And we'll say that every wheat kernel became Meiser according to the ratio of what Meiser would be. In this case, half of each of these kernels. You can't say each of these two women have a half a Kiddushin. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so you've dodged the bullet from Meiser, Tfuah. But what about Meiser Behema? You cannot say a half of Behema is Kaddish with Meiser, and the other half of the other Behema is Kaddish with Meiser. For Meiser Behema, the Lekel Chatzoin, as Rashi says, Kishemona Tisha, when you hit the number 9, because you count 9 and the 10th is Meiser, you cannot now pull out 2 animals for number 10. And to declare Kol Echad Yehi Meiser, half of each of these 2 animals should be Meiser, v'karv l'chatzoin, and you bring half of each of these animals as a carbon. That doesn't work. We also know you can't declare 2 animals as Meiser Behema. If after you called the 10th one, and it was declared as Meiser, and then by number 11 you said number 10, ain't a Kaddish, it would not be Kaddish. So by Meiser Behema, it can't be done Chatzoin, and it can't be done Bezechazeh. Yet, it will work with Asachas, because the Amarava, Yotu Shnayim Basiri, what if 2 animals got through the gate at precisely the same time to act as animal number 10, the Karan Asiri, and you called it Asiri, so what now is the status of these 2 animals? Asiri ve'echadosar muravin zebazah. We do say that they both have kedusha. Exactly how they're treated that when they both have kedusha, the shaila and the rishonim, but they both do have a kedusha. So here you have a scenario where bezechazeh would not have worked, yet the bezachazeh works. So it's shver al rabba. Zoktumar shiny ma'aser behema the isa betos. Ma'aser behema is different because you find multiple animals can take on kedusha's ma'aser when there was a mistake in the count. The Tanan, Karlit Shi Asiri. What if you mistook the count and you called number 9 into number 10? Ula Asiri Chi, and number 10 you called number 9. Ula Achadoser Asiri. And then when you hit 11, you again count to the 10. The halacha is Shloshta Mekudash. All of these 3 animals take on some level of Kedusha. And Rashi tells us how you deal with it. But for our purposes, they all take on the din kedusha. So you see that Meiser Behema could become Kaddish B'tos, and you could see that the kedusha's Meiser could somehow be spread over multiple animals. That's why it will work the vasachas. But normally, kol she'einu b'zechazeh einoi b'vasachas. Zog to Gemara. Okay, what about toida? What about toida? Harei toida, the carbon toida. We're talking about. The toida has to be accompanied with 40 breads. And when you shech the carbon toida, those 40 bread that were designated now take on the Kedushas Aguf, and they're part of the carbon. But the lesser betos, if you made breads betos, unlike Meiser, it would not work. And Rashi explains, what is the case of Lesa Batos? She'im shachat toida al arboim chalos. You shechted the carbon toida, and you had in mind 40 breads that were going to be associated with it, but v'nischavan l'shchoyros. He had in mind that they were black breads that he had, and it was those breads that he wanted to be connected to the carbon toida. But then when they opened up the bag, they realized they had the wrong breads there, and they weren't the black breads; they were the white breads. The breads that he associated with the carbon were not the ones that he had intended. They will not become guided. Because Basil holds hektish b'toyis is in the hektish. So, unlike the loophole that we uncovered by Ma'aser Behema, Toida doesn't have that. Because Toida does not work with Toys. It's not yet the lesser Nami Bazachasa. And if you were makdish 40 breads for the carbon Toida, you can't come along and say, I want to add now another 40 breads. It's 40 breads, that's it. Nevertheless, you see that the Vasachas, you could be makdish 80 breads. V'itmar Toida shenishchata al shemoinim chalos. You had 80 chalos there, and when you shechted, you had in mind that the 80 chalos should be chalos. Chizkiya Amar Hachila Arboim Mitoch. Chizkiya says only 40 of these 80 become kadosh, but for Rabbi Yochanan, and we're asking from Rabbi Yochanan, who Rashi says was a Talmud of Rabbah, Loi Hachila Arboim Mitoch Shmoim. It wouldn't work. So once again, the Gemara's kasha is, I'm sorry, the Gemara's kasha is not from Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara's kasha is on Chizkiya. Well, you see that our boyim chalos did become kaddish. Let's see Rashi. Kitchu arbamit akshmoinim v'yoytzi yidei taidosai, and he will be yoytzi the carbon taida. The Hasam Afar Shechem Esachel. The Gemara explains there how do you eat them because you don't know which of the 40 out of 80 chalos 40 are kaddish. How do you know which ones are part of the carbon? How does it work? So Rashi says like culture. What is the kasha? Clearly, Rabbi Yochanan and Chizkiya are arguing of whether or not you say Kol Sheina B'Zechazeh, Afilu V'Zachas, or maybe you don't say that. You have a Kol Sheina B'Zechazeh, Eina B'Zachas. Umatz the Chizkiya. So I was wrong. The kash is not from Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is very consistent with Rabbi. The kash is from Chizkiya. So your rabbi is Rabbi Yochanan. Chizkiya was the rabbi of Rabbi Yochanan. K'darmina be'ervin. Kavisandlo Shenivska Achas mi Tarsi Yosef. So I'll call upon the kash is from Chizkiya. And neither one was the Talmud of Rabbah. Chizkiya was the Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, and Chizkiya is telling us, so you see, b'vasachas, they did at least 40 took on the Kiddushin. So it's not a kasha from Kalish Torah, because lavitmer Allah, didn't we get clarification to the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Chizkiya that from the clarification we see that it's not anything to do with the Shaila of Rabbah. Because what did Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi say? Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Hakol Moedim, both Rabbi Yochanan and Chizkiya agree, Kol Hechad Omar, when the proclamation of this Yid, when he was designating these Chalois, Toida, if he said, Kachila Arboyim Mitoich Shmoinim, Kachi, everybody agrees. If he said, there's 80 Chalos here, I only want 40 of these 80 to become Kodesh, which is the prescribed amount. Everybody agrees there it works because he's only being makish 40. What if he said, Lo yikdushu arboyim ela imkain kachi shmoy? I only want all 80 to be chal. It's all or nothing. Then the halacha is lo kachi. Everybody agrees it doesn't work. Why? Because of Rabba's svara. Everybody agrees to Rabba that kol sheina b'zachazeh afilu b'vasachaseh. You cannot be makish 80 breads because the toida only counts for 40 breads. So you see, everybody agrees with Rabbah. So where is their machlokes? Where is Rabbi Chizkiya and Rabbi Yochanan arguing? There were 80 breads there, and he was makdish them, but he didn't specify if he wants all 80, if he wants 40 out of 80, and it's merely a question of how to decipher his language. What did he mean? Chizkiya said it was just for achrayis, meaning I really only want to be makdish 40. The other 40 I want to be there as a backup. Umar Sover the carbon Godol Michvin, Rabbi Yochanan holds that he had kavanah to have one big carbon of 80, which we already said, everybody agrees, is loy kachi. Beautiful. So now let's stop here for a moment and let's go back to Ahmed Beis at the Mishnah. Rami Bar Chama said halach in our Mishnah, and he originally learned that our Mishnah understand the pasuk even that the reason why you cannot be mekadosh isha uvita or isha v'chayse b'vasachas is because the pasuk tells you, not because of Rabba's svara, rather because the pasuk tells you lo sikach litzror, and the pasuk is referring to a case where you tried to marry these two women b'vasachas. And the Gemara had a kasha on it because how oibazoi, if the case discussed in the pasuk is when they tried to do it b'vasachas and it wasn't chal, so why is there a chi of chorus here if it turns out that he wasn't really married to any one of these two sisters? That was the Gemara's kasha. So Rava, how did Rava answer it? He answered it by quoting Rabbah and by saying that really the reason for the Mishnah is not the pasuk, because the pasuk is speaking b'zech chazeh. The reason for the Mishnah's psak is Rabbah of kol she'ein b'zech chazeh afil b'vasach chazeh. So the Gemara asked, why did Rava invoke the svara of Rabbah to explain why the Kiddushin doesn't work? Rava has his own shita that would have answered this question. So why did Rava need to come on to Rabbah's svara? Rava had his own svara that would have deflected the question. Zok to Gemara. For Rava, why did he have to invoke the svara of Rabbah of kol she'ein b'zech chazeh? Typically, Rava has his own shita. He has a shita of Kiddushin she'ein mesur l'biyah is not a Kiddushin. And it's a Kiddushin she'ein mesur l'biyah. Because think about this. If you're going to learn that one of these two women are Mekudeshes, when he's Mekadesh shnei achois b'vasachas, he wouldn't be able to have biyah with either one of these women. Because, yes, if it turns out being his wife, it's mutter to him. But if it's the other woman, she's not just a pnuya, she is the sister of his wife, who's also to him b'chai v'krisus. So kum d'chois, when someone is mekadesh, two sisters together, that's not a good kedushin at all, according to Rava. Not only that, Rava holds that, let's say he was only mekadesh one of two sisters. There's two sisters standing there, and he says, which one? One of you two, I don't know which one. That's not a good kedushin either, because it's a kedushin that could never lead to a biyah, because he never knows in this kedushin which one of these two sisters are married to him. He won't be able to be boil either one. And that's a possible kedushin. So according to Rabbi, you have a much more simpler explanation for our Mishnah as to why neither one of the kedushin is toivus, because it's a kedushin shein mesur l'biyah. So why did he need to come out to Rabbi's svara? So because l'dvar of the Rabbi Bar Chama, he just wanted to say, even you, according to you, Rabbi Bar Chama, who learns that it's a question of vasachas, it's not invoking my svara. For you, I can accommodate your approach using Rabbah. According to you, Rabbi Bar Chama, the alphas lay mehai that you want to learn from this person that the both are not chabal vasachas. You can't touch up that the pasuk is speaking of vasachas the kosher v'nifris. So even according to you, you could say the pasuk is referring to b'zach chazeh. And you can use Rabbi's svara to say kol she'ein b'zach chazeh in b'vasachas. But me, I wouldn't even invoke your svara at all. I would just say the reason why in the Mishnah the Kiddushin doesn't work is because it's a Kiddushin she'ein mesur l'biyah, which now opens up a whole new beautiful sugya of Kiddushin she'ein mesur l'biyah. Gewaltig. Zog to Gemara Itmar. Kiddushin she'ein mesur l'biyah. Someone makes a Kiddushin that can never lead to a biyah. And the classic example is someone who's mekadosh achash mishtei achoyos. It's unidentified from the start which of these two sisters he is making Kiddushin on, which means he will never be able to be boil any one of his wives. That's not a good Kiddushin. But Abaye argues, Abaye Amar have a Kiddushin, and it's a suffix. Rav Amar loy have a Kiddushin, it's not a good Kiddushin. Amar Rava said, Barahina is really, Barahina explained to me the reason for this halacha that Kiddushin she'ein mesur l'biyah is not a good Kiddushin. Because it says in the pasuk, Ki yigach ish isha uba'ala. The Torah says if a man marries a wife, uba'ala. He made kicha using Kiddushin kesef, as we learned, kicha mistei afroid, and then he was boiler. So you see clearly, in order for a Kiddushin to be good, it has to lead to a biyah. Kiddushin and mesur l'biyah have a Kiddushin, Kiddushin shein mesurin l'bia, lo have a Kiddushin. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Tana. Hamekadesh isha ubita, or isha v'achaisa, ke'achas. Our Mishnah, einon mekudosh. So it's mashma, dafke, because he was mekadesh both of them at the same time. Ha, hakasma isha ubita. What if he said, I don't want to be mekadesh both of you. I only want to be mekadesh one of you, but I'm not specifying which one. Or isha v'achaisa, mekudeshes. It's mashma, that case would be mekudeshes. Correct, Gemara, according to Rava, why would it be Mekudeshes? Vamai, Kiddushin she'ein mesurin l'biyaninu, tiyuf to the Rava. This seems to be an upshot on Rava, and a right to Abaye. Amlach Rava, uda temeich, emasef. So you're telling me that Kiddushin she'ein mesurin l'biyaninu is a good Kiddushin. Okay, now let's look at the second half of the Mishnah. Remember, we never really got clear pshat in the second half of the Mishnah. We're still not going to get it clear 100%, but we're going to get more information today. The Mishnah quotes a story to support its psak. There were 5 women who bahen shtei achos, and amongst these 5 women, there were 2 sisters. The liked echad kalkala shal ta'inim, v'shalahen ha'isa, v'shal shviyas ha'isa. This part, the shalahen and shal shviyas, we're not going to explain yet. The Omar, and he told them, Harei kulchem mekudash li b'chalkala zu. The Omar chachamim, and what did the chachamim say? Ein achoyos mikudashos. The sisters are not mikudashos. Achoyos udein mikudashos. Hanachoyos mikudashos. That means the other 3 women will be mikudashos. Hechadami. What exactly was the case? Ida Amar Kulchem Kni. If he said that I want to marry all 5 of you, well, it's very clear that he couldn't marry all 5 of them. It's very clear that one of these 2 sisters he could not have married, which means in his Kiddushin, he's saying something that's not going to happen. So to Gemara, it's Kni at v'chamarhu. It's a case of Kni at v'chamar, the at v'chamar loika. That means, what if he goes over to a woman and he says, I read Mikudashishli and the donkey. Can you marry a donkey? No. So we say, just like what he said towards the donkey won't be a good Kiddushin, so too what he said to this woman won't be a good Kiddushin. So here as well, since out of the 5 women, one of them that he's being Mekadesh cannot be a Kiddushin, so too the entire Kiddushin will be possible, and none of the women will be Mekudeshes to him. While the Mishnah clearly says it was just Achayos that aren't Mekudeshes, but the other 3 are. Rashi gives another example of K'diyat v'chamor. That was if someone wanted to give a gift to 2 brothers. One of the brothers was already born, and the other brother is still a fetus in his mother's stomach. And he said, I'm being makna this to both of you. The halacha is no one's koine anything. The baltan uber shebemei imoy can't be koine anything, and you lump them together. Therefore, nobody is koine. So here too, since you're lumping these 3 other women with the 2 women who are not going to be koine, then no one should be koine. Yet the Mishnah clearly says only the achayos were not koine. So we need to get a better understanding of what this case was with these 5 women. Ella, what must have happened, Zok to Gemara, is the Amar Lahu Achas Miken. He didn't say, I want to be koine all of you. When he gave them the kalkala, he said, I only want to be koine one of you. That's no longer atfachamor, because the one of you that he wants could very well be someone who has a tvisus kedushin. Vikatani, and nevertheless, what does it say? Ein acharos mekudashos. These sisters are not mekudashos. Why not? He's only been mekadosh one of these 2 women. Why isn't one of these 2 women mekudashos? According to Rava, it makes perfect sense because it's a kedushin shein mesur and labia. He's been mekadosh one of 2 sisters. He doesn't know which one. But according to the Abaye, it should be a good kedushin. So you might have a kasha on the Rava from the Reisha, the Rava kosher Reisha, but la Abaye kosher seifa. The seifa is clearly mashma that kedushin shein mesur and labia is not a good kedushin. Zok to Gemara, Abaye metaris latamei and Rava metaris latamei. Abaye would have to explain the Mishnah so that the seifa won't be shver on him, and Rava will have to explain the Mishnah so that the Reisha shouldn't be shver on him. Abaye metaris latamei as follows: a mekadesh ishu bita. If someone's mekadesh ishu bita, or isha v'chaisa, or a woman and her sister simultaneously ka'achas, they're in mekudashos. But as the Gemara was medayik earlier, ha Achas me'ishovita. If he said, I want to be mekadesh one of you between you or your sister, or achas, or you and your daughter, I mean, or achas me'isha ve'achaysa, or one of you two, you or your sister, then mikudeshes or will be mikudeshes, as a Abaya holds, kedushin shed mesir labiyah is a good kedushin. But we have to amend the Mishnah. The Amar Haruya Labiotis Kadishli. What if he said, I only want to be Mekadosh, the woman who I could be boil, since he can't be boil either one, there ain't a Mekudashes, because his Kedushin stipulated that it has to be a Kedushin Haruya Labiyah. And to show that such a stipulation works, Umay Sinami B'chamishna. There was a story with 5 women. Uben Shtei Achayos, Velikad Echad, Kalkalash Altainen B'Amar, I only want to be mekadesh the women amongst you that are royal to me. So the 2 sisters are not royal to him. Therefore, from Chachamim and the Chayis Mukudashos, but the other women are Mukudashos to him. And that's how Abaya learns our Mishnah, and everything makes perfect sense. Rava Matars Latamei. He has to explain the Reisha. How does he deal with the diuk that we made from the Reisha of Mishnah? That a Mekadesh Achas Mushtei Achayos would be good, as follows. A Mekadesh Achas Me'ishovita, a Achas Mishav Achaysa, Natsa Kami, Shekidesh Isha Ubita, Isha V'Achaysa, Ka'achas, Ve'ena Mekudashos. Beautiful. He just says Natsa Kami. In other words, when the Mishnah is saying the Psak of Zachazeh, what it means to say is, when the Mishnah is saying the Psak of Vazachas, it means to say that even if you tried it V'Zach or Zeh, you try to be Mekadesh Echas Mushtei Achayos, it's as if you try to be Mekadesh them both together, and the Kiddushin will not be Chal, because Kiddushin Shed Mesur Labiyah is not a good Kiddushin. Umay Senami, and to support it, the Mishnah quotes a story, the Chamish Noshem Ubehen Shtei Achayos, the Likad Echad Men Kalkala Shaltein, V'Amar Harei Kulchem, and the Achas Mushtei Achayos Mukudashosli, all 3 of you, plus one of these 2 sisters, should be mukudashos. Because kolasu, v'amur chachamim ein achayis mukudashos. Dafka achayis are not mukudashos because it's the kedushin shed mesur labiyah, but the 3 strangers, the other 3 women are mukudashos. So we've deflected that kasha on Rava. Tashma, let's ask another kasha on Rava, who says kedushin shed mesur labiyah is not a good kedushin. Hamakadosh is bita istam. If someone accepts kedushin on behalf of his children, a father can be mekabel kedushin on behalf of his children. Now he didn't specify which one of his daughters he's being mekabel kedushin for. Ain't a boigris b'chlal. If this father has any adult girls, of course he wasn't mekabel kedushin for them. So if he has multiple ketanos, one of these girls is a suffix eshish. Sorry, one of these girls is a vada eshish. Therefore, all of these girls are a suffix eshish. But the boigris, since he doesn't have control over them, of course, they're all free women. Haktanos b'chlal. So you're telling me if he had 3 ketanos and he was mekabel kedushin for one of the 3, and he doesn't know which one, they'll be sofik mekudeshes. According to Rava, they shouldn't be mekudeshes at all. Why? Because since if someone's mekadesh one of 2 achayos and he doesn't know which one, we say it's a kedushin shed mesur labiyah, it's not a good kedushin. So why does the Brisa say that the ketanos are b'chlal? V'mai kedushin shed mesur labiyah ninu utiyuf to the Rava. From here you see that they are mekudeshes misafek. Amalach Rava hacha v'mai askinan kishein sham ela gedayla uketana. It's speaking where he had 1 adult daughter and 1 minor daughter. So therefore, since he has no control over his adult daughter, if someone came and gave him Moish Kedushin to be koina, to be Mekadesh, one of the 2 girls, obviously it's only the Ketana that would be married, because it's only the Ketana that the father has any control over. You can't learn Pshat like that with only 1 Ketana, 1 Gedolah, because Haboy Grois Ketana. It says Ein Boy Grois plural b'chlal. So it's much he had multiple boy groys. So if he had multiple boy groys, he probably also had multiple katanas. No, it doesn't mean my boy groys Talmud. It doesn't mean he had multiple boy groys. It means in the world, in general, boy groys wouldn't be included in this suffix. But it doesn't specifically mean that he had multiple boy groys. Why would the Mishnah be telling me to halakha? So posh. If he has a Ketana and he's a Boigris, of course he has no control over the Boigris. So of course the woman that he was Mekadosh was the Ketana. Zok Gemara, no. Here we're speaking in a case where he did have the right to marry off his daughter, the Boigris. How does a man have a right to marry off his daughter, a Boigris? Simple. His daughter, the adult, appointed him, Tati, please be Mekabel Kiddushin for me from any man that you see fit. So now he has the rights to marry off his daughter, who's the adult. He has the right to marry off the daughter, who's a Ketana. And a man comes up to him and says, I want to be Mekadosh one of your two daughters, and he accepted. We say the Boigris is not B'chlal. The question is, why not? He had the right to marry each one of them off. So how do you know it means Ketana, not the Boigris? Zogt the Gemara, Maudetema, Ki Mekabel Kedusha, Adaita, the Daka Mekabel. You would have thought that when he's Mekabel Kedushin, he probably meant it for the Boigris because she specifically authorized him to be Mekabel Kedushin. And that's who he was Mekabel Kedushin for. Kamash Malon, this is a hard line to understand. If he's Mekabel Kedushin for his daughter, the adult, who gets the money? He gets the money. If he Mekabel's Kedushin for the daughter who's a Tana, he gets the money. So he wouldn't give up the opportunity to feed his greed and to take the money for himself, and he wouldn't marry off his older daughter. Difficult to understand. Frank the Gemara, the Mishnah is not specific. The Mishnah seems to say in any case where he could represent his daughter, even if his daughter was letting him keep the money. So if we're letting him keep the money, so maybe it's the Boigris that he should want to marry off. A person has a chiyuv, a responsibility to marry off his minor daughters, but he doesn't have a chiyuv, a responsibility to marry off his adult daughters. Doesn't have a chiyuv to marry off his adult daughters, and therefore he focus first on the chiyuv that he has, and then consider the chiyuv that he doesn't have. Toshma, someone who has two sets of daughters, so he married a woman and he had two children with them. He had two daughters, and then this marriage dissolved. Maybe his wife died. He married another woman, and now he had two more daughters. So he has the older batch and he has the younger batch. V'yomar, and he was Mekabel Kedushin for one of his four daughters, but he didn't know which one. And he said as follows: Kidashius biti Agadola. He accepted Kedushin for his older daughter. We don't know. There's three out of these four girls that could be considered older. The oldest of the first group, she's the oldest in the group. It surely could mean her, but it could also mean it could mean the oldest daughter from the younger group, because she's also considered a Gdoila. Or it could even mean it could mean the younger one from the older group, because she's still older than both of the girls in the younger group. Therefore, Kula Nasuras, all of these three girls are also because they might be the one who he accepted Kedushin for, except for the youngest girl, because she for sure couldn't be referred to as a Gedolah, the Reb Meir. So once again, since three women here are Suffolk Mikudashos, and he will not be able to be boiled any of them, because each one is a Suffolk Achos Ishtoi. According to Rava, it shouldn't be a Kedushin at all, it shouldn't even be a Suffolk Kedushin, because it's a Kedushin Shenisur in the Bia. And for the Gemara, it wasn't a Kedushin Shenisur in the Bia. When the father was Mekabel Kedushin, he knew exactly which daughter he was Mekabel the Kedushin for. And there was a Kedushin Namasur in the Bia. Later on, he forgot. Now they're stuck. He doesn't remember which of these women are Mekudeshes. Therefore, 3 out of 4 are Suffolk Mekudeshes. And Dekanami, I can prove to you from the Lashon HaMishnah itself that it means where it was once known, at the time of the Kedushin, it was known specifically which girl was Mekudesh. The Katani ain't ni idea. I don't know. But like Katani ain't yodua, it is unknown. Because it's just information that was known that I forgot. Shemamina. So then what is the whole Chiddush of Reb Meir that we have a suffix, which one of three girls were married, so they're all also, they all need to get, why do I need Reb Meir to tell me this Chiddush? So tomorrow, Lafuki with Rabbi Yosy, Domer le Mochish, Inish, Nafshelasvei. Rabbi Yosy has a general rule in life that a person never ever says anything if it could lead to a suffix. And Rashi explains, if he said Gedolah, a person would never say Gedolah unless he meant the Gedolah Sheba Gedolas. He would never use a word that would be ambiguous. If he could mean any one of the interpretations of Gedolah in the list of the suffix, then it would lead to a suffix. So therefore, we automatically say when someone says Gedolah, it automatically means the oldest period. So you might say you could be making like Rabbi Yosy, no. A person does put himself into a suffix. And when he said Gedolah, we have a suffix, which one of these three girls it might be. Toshma, Misha Kiddush Achas Mishteach Choyos Ve'eni Yodea Eza Kiddush. He went over to two sisters and he says, Hooray, one of you Mekudeshes, but he doesn't know which one. So the Allah is nice and get lazu, the get lazu. He has to give them each a get. A direct steer to Rabbah, according to Rava, because according to Rava, neither would we require a get. Why? Because it's a Kiddushin Shem Yisrael L'Biyah. Once again, at the time of the Kiddushin, he knew exactly who he was marrying. He only forgot later. And Dekanami, I can prove it, just like we proved it a moment ago from the Lashon HaMishnah itself. The Katani Eino Yodeya, the Katani Eino Yodua. Fragt the Gemara, what is the Chiddush? If you're Mekadosh a woman, you forgot who you're Mekadosh, so then of course everyone's also you. What do we need this special Chiddush in the Mishnah? So the Gemara Sefer it's Trichel. Really, it's just a segue into the Sefer of the Brisa, which has a great Chiddush. And this is as follows. Mace. You have a man who married one of two daughters, one of two sisters. He doesn't know which sister he married. But now he died, and whichever this unknown woman is now Zokuk Liyibah. And he has a brother, he has one brother. So what does this brother do? One of these women to him are a stranger. The other one to him is a Yavama. So what he has to do is Chayletz Lishneim. He can't do Yibam on either one, because it might be Achoysa Kukasa. It might be the sister of the woman who he's Zokuk to, which Midar Abundant is also for him to marry. But he can do Chalitza to each of them. And then they'll both be able to marry whoever they want. What if this person died and left over two brothers? So then, Echad Chalitza, one of them will make Chalitza. Now, once he makes Chalitza on one of these women, then let's look at the next one. Either the next woman was really his wife, and therefore his other brother could make evil, or really the real wife, the Almana, was the woman who got Chalitza from the brother. And this woman is still a stranger. So therefore, the second woman, after the woman who got the Chalitza, the other sister, she could receive evil. She could receive evil from the other brother. So the brother A will do Chalitza on sister A. Now sister B is either the woman who's Zokuk Liyibah, or she's the woman who is a total stranger. Therefore, brother B could marry her, and he's either doing Yibam, or he's marrying a new woman that he had never connected to in the first place. The first brother can't do Chalitza to one and Yibam on the other, because just in case the woman that he did Chalitza on was the real Almana, now the other woman, the sister, is considered a Chosh Chalutzasoi, and a Chosh Chalutzasoi is also to marry Midar Abundant. Im Kadnu V'Kantu, what if the two brothers married the two sisters? They didn't follow the rule to do Chalitza first. So now what's going to happen is, regardless, the Yavama already got Yibam, because she's one of these two women. The other one is a Chosh Kukosai, which is only also Midar Abundant, and therefore, Ein Maitziin Oisa Miyadam, you don't force him to divorce his wife, because now it's not a Chosh Kukosai anymore, because now the other sister had already Yibam them. Yes, at the time when he married her, it was a suffix, a Chosh Kukosai, it was improper of him to do it. But once he's married, we don't break up the marriage. You see, there's a hakbada, and that is the chiddush that we're trying to say you have from the sefer here, is dafka if the chalitza is done first, and only then can you do yibum. But to say first the brother should do yibum, and then the other brother should do chalitza, that we won't do. Because if he does yibum first, he might, just in case he doesn't have the right woman, and he's living with the sister of the almana, then he's being pagei b'chayis kukasei, which is an issur d'Rabbanan, and that is the chiddush That is the chiddush of this price. Toshma. It's going to get a little bit more complicated. Shnayim shekitzu shtei achayos. Two brothers were mekadosh two sisters. So the first case that we were talking about until now, there was only one brother who married one of two sisters. Now you have two brothers that marries two sisters, and each one doesn't know who they married. So you have brother 1 and 2 married to sister A and B, and we don't know if one is married to A and 2 is married to B, or maybe 1 is married to B and 2 is married to A. So how do you deal with these women? They can't marry anybody. So brother 1 has to give them both a get. Brother 2 has to give them both a get. And now woman A and woman B can walk free and marry somebody else. She can never marry one of these two men because it might be a choisishta. So once again, according to Rava, this whole brisa makes no sense because the Kiddushin would never have been a Kiddushin in the first place because it was a Kiddushin Shem Yisur Nubiyah. Zaktimar Hakanami, you can answer to the Hukru Ulusayf Nesarbu. Once again, when the brothers married the two sisters, we knew which brother was married to which sister. And later on, it became forgotten. And once again, they kanami de katani einu yoidea, v'loy katani einu yudua. Shmamina, clearly they knew who they were marrying at the time. Then later, it became confused who married him. Frektimar, the same question as before, Yachi Maila member, what's the Chiddush? Zaktimar, once again, Seifot Strichel. Mace, what happens if they die? Vilozeach. If the person who made the Kiddushin died, and they each have a brother, so the halacha is zeh choylutz l'shtein v'zeh choylutz l'shtein. What's going to happen is they're going to each have to be choylutz too. So zokt. Let me just see the lashon over here. This gimel over here. Zokt to Gemara. Mesu, they both died. So you have two brothers who married two sisters. You don't know who's married to who. And they both died. And there's two brothers. There's two brothers. So Mesu, let me just look at the gears again. Mesu, they both died. Lozeach, and there's two brothers. So the halacha is Zeh choylitz l'shtein. Everybody has to be choylutz, everybody. What happens if loza echad or loza shnai? One, so you know something, I realized that I made a mistake. It wasn't two brothers that married two sisters. It was two people who were not related that married two sisters. So I apologize for mixing it up. So it's not two brothers married two sisters, it's two strangers that married two sisters. So you have that each married one of two sisters. So if they both died, and each of them have one brother, so each one of the two surviving brothers will have to make chalitza on both of these wives. Why? Because it's a suffix. Was my brother married to Isha A, or was my brother married to Isha B? And therefore, each of the surviving brothers have to make chalitza on both wives. But what happens if it's lozeh echad lozeh shnai? One of the husbands who died had one brother, but the other one who died had two brothers. So now you have more options available. So what would have to happen is ha'echad choylutz l'shtein. The single surviving brother would have to make chalitza on both because his brother might have been married to A and might have been married to B, so he makes chalitza on both. V'ashtayim, and the other set of brothers where there's two. Echad choylitz, after the single brother made chalitza on both, then the second set, the brother one will do chalitza, the echad miyabim, and the other one will do iva. And in kadmu v'kinsu, and if they both made yibum right away, they both lived with these two sisters right away, then ein metzina yadam, we'll let them remain married. There's no chashash that this is a Yavam al-Shuk because the other surviving brother already made chalitza on both of them. So neither of these two women will be zoko to that brother. Now it's the two remaining brothers from the other husband one of them could do yibum, one of them could do chalitza. They shouldn't both do yibum at the same time because it might be achois zukukasai. If they did, we will not force them to divorce. So the chiddush of this price is dafka michlitz for hadar yuv. Dafka if the single brother did chalitza before either one of the other two brothers did anything. Only then will it work, because then there's no problem of a yivam l'shul. Yivumi for hadar michlitz, but to let one of the two brothers do yibum before the brother of the other deceased does chalitza, that you can't allow. The kabaga b'yivam l'shuk, because one of these women might be a yivama to the other man who didn't do chalitza yet, and by you having a relationship with her, it'll be yivam l'shuk. Okay, beautiful. We'll stop here, and we'll be mamshech a little bit later. You know what? Maybe I'll push a little further because it finishes the machlokes. Tashma, the Tani Tevyumi, Lazeh Chamisha Banim, for Lazeh Chamish Banis. One man had 5 sons, and all of these 5 sons made him a shliach to find a wife for them. For Lazeh Chamish Banis, and this man had 5 young girls that he has a right to be Mekabel Kiddushin for. The Omar and the father of the boys told the father of the girls, Achas mi b'noi sayach mikudeshes le'echad mi bana. One of your daughters should be mikudeshes to one of my sons. Now here from day one, he had no idea which one because it was never specified. So what is that halacha? We have a big problem because any one of these 5 girls might be married to any one of these 5 boys. And therefore, called achas va'achas tzricha chamisha git. Each one of these 5 women need 5 git. Meis echad mehen. If one of these brothers die, everyone suffolk evil. Called achas va'achas tzricha arba gittin v'chalitza. Then each one will need 4 gittin because maybe they're married to one of the living brothers, but they'll also need a chalitza. Me'echad men. At least 1 chalitza, because the chalitza of 1 brother is enough for all the other brothers. And here you can't say, if you're going to say this, all speaking in the case where at the time of the Kiddushin, it was known who the Mekadosh was, it can't be, because the case was, so it's clear a case where it was never known who was the Mekadosh and who was the Mekudeshes, and therefore it's a Kiddushin Shem Sur Labia, and according to Rava, it shouldn't be a good Kiddushin at all. So to Gemara, you're right. Rava is Ogishlavin. Tiyofta de Rava Tiyofta, and therefore normally we always pass like Rava when he argues with Abaye, except for 6 cases, and one of the cases is our case of Kiddushin Shalanim Sur Labia, which is the Kuf of Kigam. Okay, we'll stop here, and B'ez Hashem, we will be mamshech.